Hello, my name is Keith Perkins. I'm with Accounting Systems Consulting Group, and we have put together a set of short videos to exemplify some of the features Sage 100. Today we're going to look at repetitive invoice entry and how to set it up and how to use it for your repetitive invoices for your customers. So with that being said, let's take an example. Say you are an electric company, like in this example. We may have a monthly billing scheme whereby businesses may be paying us for a monthly service contract, and we need to generate an invoice to them once a month according to the contract, generate all the contracts, all the invoices, and send them out. To do that, I would go to Accounts Receivable, Repetitive Invoice Entry right here on the menu. I would select my customer. We'll use Liberty Mutual. I'll give it a reference number, and this is any arbitrary number that you want to use, as long as it's unique to the customer. So we'll just say 1. They may or may not have a PO for this. If you're integrated with job costs, you could also apply a job number. Where it says select cycle, this is important because you may have repetitive invoices that you need to send out at different times of the year. You could use weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually, and I usually just set it up whereby we use the first letter of those calendar items. So I might say M for monthly. I'll start the billing date today, and we'll run this perpetually for now for our example, but it could be for a year. It would automatically stop when it reaches a year. You can have their terms code. Of course, it's pulling that directly from their setup and customer maintenance. A ship method. This is going to be a service contract, so we won't have a ship method. Who this customer salesperson is. We could have a comment. We could apply sales tax if we need to. Last billed and times billed will automatically increment as you send out invoices. We go over to our Lines tab where we put our details of our service contract in. And I'm going to use a miscellaneous code, so I'll use the / to pull up miscellaneous codes. And this one has none. So what we will do, I will create one for monthly service. And you can do this on the fly, which is a nice feature. We'll make it a miscellaneous charge. We'll call it monthly service contract. Now I could put a standard unit price in here if I was going to charge everyone that I use this miscellaneous code the same amount for, or if I wanted it to default, but I can also change it once I apply it to the invoice. So we'll leave it blank so that they'll have to refer to the contract to get the right contract amount. These are going to be non-taxable. Okay, I have to give it the default account numbers that it will need to do the posting. We'll go ahead and assign these. So now it's set up, and I would go look at this contract, and it might be $250 a month for our example. This up here is called the primary grid, And everything down here is called the secondary grid, where I can see the details of the line item that I just applied to the invoice. And these are interchangeable. I could take things off the primary grid and add them to the secondary, or vice versa. I come to my totals tab, have a non-taxable amount of $250, commission rate if that applies, tax detail if that applies. Then I can save this. Now, although it says invoice entry, that does not mean it just entered an invoice. It's a little bit deceiving in that aspect. All it really did was record the repetitive invoice setup for me. To actually create an invoice, I have to go to the next menu item, because mass is always top down. I would go to repetitive invoice selection, and let's say it's the end of the month now. May 31st. I might say, okay, at the end of the month, this is when I run my repetitive invoices for all my service contracts. I would come in here, invoice date, selection date, include customers on hold or not, and it will start auto-assigning invoice numbers from this invoice number that's listed here. Now, I may have set up some repetitive invoices that were monthly, weekly, quarterly, or whatever I needed, so I want to choose my cycle. Let's say equal to M, because that's what I put on my invoice. And I tell it to proceed. And I can tell that this is populated because the clear button is available to me now. I have a print button here. I can click that, and it'll show me the invoices. Okay, and I have my invoice. I may have my logo. I may have some other things. These are totally modifiable. You can make them say whatever you like them to say. 250. Okay, looks good. It's ready to go out. So I would print all of those. And then it asked me, do I want to update my sales journal? I could say yes, no. For now, I'm going to say no, because once I run the repetitive invoice, once I set up the repetitive invoice entry and I run it once a month or whatever my schedule is under repetitive invoice selection, what it's really doing is it's dropping it into invoice data entry, just as if you had keyed it in, except you didn't have to key it in because it's all pre-programmed for you. So here it is. So if I did need to add something to it, maybe some comment lines, maybe who went out and serviced the equipment that month, or anything I might want to add to it, I can come in here and look at it. Of course, this also gives me access to invoice printing at this point because it's in my regular invoice data entry now. And I could do whatever I need to do to it here. And if I also had my paperless set up, I could possibly email it to them, print it, PDF it, whatnot. So we're going to assume that it was good, that we printed it out, and it's in our stack to go out in the mail. So we'd want to post it at this point. Now these are the same registers that you would see if you had keyed it in. So it comes right back into the same process. There's our sales journal. Okay, and this is what it's going to do to our general ledger. It's going to debit our accounts receivable and credit our revenue. And we're going to update it. So now if I went to my customer inquiry, and I chose my lookup button. I looked at Liberty Mutual. I would see my invoice that I just sent out. And as I ran this each month, you'd see them stack up. So this is what we use when we have a recurring type of invoice situation that we don't want to. We want to make sure that we get all the billing out and have it default to what we need it to default to for the duration that we need it to default for. That concludes this video. Stay tuned for more.